Kokonotsu Shikada aspires to be a manga artist, but his father, Y, forces him to take over the family Dagashi shop. Hotaru Shidare, a beautiful and eccentric girl, comes to their house at that time and asks Y to work for her family's candy company. Y refuses because he wouldn't be able to leave the shop if Kokonotsu didn't want to inherit it. As a result, Hotaru chose to stay until Kokonotsu agreed to take over the shop. Later at their cafe, Kokonotsu meets the End twins, T and Saya, and tells them about Hotaru without mentioning her name. Saya later meets Hotaru in person, unaware that she's the same person mentioned by Kokonotsu earlier. Hotaru arrives at the Shikada shop, San Y, and continues her bizarre and sexually oblivious sweets-related behavior, eventually passing out after consuming a non-alcoholic candy-beer mix. Later, Kokonotsu and Saya meet up, and Hotaru joins them while playing with candy that can also be used as a whistle. She then tells a story about the snack, which Saya dismisses as nonsense, but Kokonotsu realizes as allegorical and implies that Hotaru's antics may not be entirely genuine. Saya diffuses the situation by imagining all the free sweets she'd get if Kokonotsu took over the shop. Saya stuns both Kokonotsu and Hotaru with instances of beginner's luck as the three play Menko into the evening. On a particularly hot day, Hotaru and T arrive at the shop and decide to make Budamen by boiling water inside of the shop. T admits to Kokonotsu that he's only here to fraternize about Hotaru while she sensually eats the snack, despite Hotaru's insistence that eating it in the sweltering heat is the best way to enjoy it. The three decide to go to the pool while T contacts Saya about the meetup after the air conditioning breaks, and Kokonotsu warns Hotaru that some Dagashi may spoil due to the heat. At the pool, Kokonotsu and T meet Y, who moonlights as a lifeguard, and the girls. It is then revealed that Y and Hotaru are conspiring to bring Kokonotsu closer to sweets once more. However, the plan backfires when the Dagashi they planted in the pool are unable to be eaten due to a no food or drink sign they forgot to remove. Hotaru arrives at the shop the next day to find T but no Kokonotsu, who is busy moving Dagashi that may have gone bad the day before. Hotaru tries to start a conversation about Dagashi with T but misinterprets his aversion to the topic as a challenge. As Kokonotsu stumbles upon the scene with no context and an air conditioning repair crew, Hotaru quickly balls candy into T's mouth. Hotaru is forced to stay with Saya at the cafe shop by Kokonotsu, and the two get along swimmingly. When Kokonotsu enters the shop, he discovers Hotaru blindfolded. She challenges him to a blind taste test using various flavors of fugashi, with the caveat that the taster's hands must be tied behind their back in order to avoid cheating by identifying the snack solely on the basis of texture. When the fugashi flavors they're testing run out, Kokonotsu tries to trick Hotaru with a rare fugashi flavor. She still gets it right, much to his chagrin. When it's Kokonotsu's turn, Hotaru complains of a dry mouth and runs off to get a drink, leaving him blindfolded and bound. Unfortunately, Y arrives at the shop before Hotaru and misinterprets the situation. Following that, T and Kokonotsu meet at the cafe end. T notices the girls' doodles by Kokonotsu and draws attention to the size difference in their breasts. When Kokonotsu returns to the sweets shop, he runs into Hotaru and realizes he forgot his notebook with the drawings. Sensing Kokonotsu's predicament, Hotaru tosses him a box of Gilco caramel and the two use the candy's kilocalories to sprint back to the cafe as quickly as they can. When the two are 300 meters apart, Hotaru runs out of candy and energy. She offers him her last piece as she collapses from exhaustion. As Kokonotsu enters the cafe, she's greeted by Saya, who is already looking at the doodles. Late at night, Kokonotsu interrupts his father and Hotaru as they enjoy bin ramune. While Hotaru explains the Dagashi's peculiarities, Kokonotsu remarks on the snack's apparent addictiveness, particularly after witnessing Y greedily drink it despite the fact that it's supposed to be for sale. While Kokonotsu returns to his bed, the two decide to make things right. Kokonotsu is reawakened again at 1:30 AM, this time by his father making food vlogs. Y claims that he's doing it to make money from YouTube's ad revenue, but also admits that his videos have only reached 13 views in total. When Kokonotsu decides to watch his father's record, he notices that he reads from a script and doesn't have much to say about Baby Star Ramen. He decides to assist by naming facts about the Dagashi's origins, mascots, and naming convention while the webcam is still recording. The video receives over 100 more views as a result of this. After hearing that Kokonotsu and T are broke, Hotaru comes over. She introduces them to prizes hidden inside Yanamon packages, despite the fact that the prizes are more like coupons than yen, and Hotaru goes through several without winning anything. Despite the fact that she has never won a candy prize in her life, she introduces the boys to the Sour Grape Challenge. This involves a 3-pack of grape-flavored gum, one of which is extremely sour. Whoever eats the sour one must help the winners in some way. Hotaru thinks she has the boys beat because the gum's packaging reveals which one is the sour one, but double-checking it reveals she bought a pack with new packaging. Hotaru loses after the three eat a piece. Kokonotsu tries to cheer up a downcast Hotaru by suggesting that her bad luck could be considered a form of talent. Regardless, Hotaru flees in rage before Kokonotsu and T realize she never kept her end of the bargain. Hotaru invites the three to a temple to discuss Super Hemo Q, an elongated gummy worm like Dagashi. T comes in with a new Dagashi, Makin Gummies, and interrupts her. A pun on John Ken, he opens up the package to discover that she has the paper version of the candy, and then decides to play a prank after noticing the similarities to the stretchy hand toy and receiving a confirmation glare from Hotaru. He purposefully lifts his sister's skirt, enraged Saya, who punches him and throws him several meters away. Hotaru returns to the subject of the Super Hemo Q and demonstrates the various ways in which it can be used. The result is a modified tug-of-war between her and Kokonotsu in order to determine the shop's succession. After the game ends in a tie, Hotaru continues by telling Kokonotsu and Saya about the history of the Dagashi's length while using it as a nunchuck. A piece of the fling snaps off and flies into the air. Kokonotsu instinctively chases it down, grabs it with his mouth, and lands on top of T. After that, the four decide to play Ohajiki to settle the succession issue. When Saya demonstrates proficiency in a game she's never played before, Hotaru suggests that she work at the Shikada shop. As she stares at Kokonotsu, she flushes with the thought. Hotaru later pulls out a trump card, the forbidden Ohajiki, with Hotaru in last place. Unfortunately, it slips from her grasp and shatters on impact, leaving her in tears. Saya considers Hotaru's offer the next day. She remembers playing doctor with yogurt, a nutritional Dagashi that comes in a blister pack, when she and Kokonotsu were younger. With a hand on Kokonotsu's forehead, Saya took his temperature, but pushed him away when they made eye contact, insisting on being the doctor instead. Saya then attempted to use the situation to persuade Kokonotsu to touch her body, but he biffly prescribed medicine and sent her on her way each time. When they moved on to the fictitious surgery, Kokonotsu gave Saya the last piece of yogurt as an anesthetic and sadly informed him that he didn't have any more. They both fell over and locked hands when she tried to console him. Saya brushes off the embarrassing memory, remarking that Kokonotsu has most likely forgotten about it, and resumes her walk to the Shikada shop. Today's Dagashi, yogurt, is usually introduced by Hotaru. Both Kokonotsu and Saya look away in embarrassment, and Saya darts away. She expresses relief at the fact that Kokonotsu remembers her. The day before the summer festival begins, Kokonotsu tags along with his father to set up their annual manjayaki stand. He, T, and Hotaru arrive at the festival the next day. Hotaru informs the boys that she will be able to earn more money by playing katanuki after announcing how much money they each have. After several attempts, he cuts out an umbrella design. Unfortunately, on his way to claim his prize, he trips and breaks it. Kokonotsu later assists Y at the manjayaki stand. When Saya arrives, Y decides to let him in. T takes over his friend's spot while Kokonotsu explores the festival with her. Kokonotsu decides to try goldfish scooping after some games and food. When he fails several times, Saya recalls a time when they were both younger and Kokonotsu also struggled with the game. The stand owner gave him a goldfish as a token of his sympathy after he had spent all of his money with no success, which Kokonotsu decided to give to Saya. Saya accepts the goldfish with a blush and a thank you, which happens to be the same thing that happened before the first time. Kokonotsu, T, Hotaru, and Saya sit in the powerless shop during a typhoon, while T tells scary stories to frighten Saya but leave Kokonotsu with questions about the plot inconsistencies. T is retelling stories from packages of super scary story gum that are entirely fictional, according to Hotaru. Regardless, they continue to terrify Saya. T later buys a pair of kendama for him and Kokonotsu to try to master after being inspired by a YouTube video. After failing repeatedly, Saya appears and juggles the ball with ease, while also revealing that T already had a few kendama at home, confirming his kendama ineptitude. Following a brief discussion about popularity with T near an embankment, he introduces Kokonotsu to popping fortune-telling chocolate. T's good health and the fact that neither of the boys have started their summer homework are perfectly predicted by the Dagashi. Hotaru appears in search of Kokonotsu after popping the Wish chocolate and wishing to see a Panchira. Hotaru leaps off the ledge she was standing on after agreeing to meet at the shop later, giving the boys a chance to see her. They are astounded by the three coincidences. When Saya arrives at the shop, no one is there. Hotaru, on the other hand, arrives with a mouth ulcer and continues to eat Dagashi despite Saya's advice. She continues to eat, but Watapashi's fizzy reaction aggravates her ulcer. Saya later notices a Dagashi she hasn't seen before. Hotaru tells her about the Unchako, whose name and method of disposal conjure up images of feces in Saya's mind. When Seiya hints at it, Hotaru misunderstands and believes Seiya is implying that the Dagashi's appeal is beyond their age range. Hotaru wants to talk about the Dagashi's innuendo after eating a few of the grape and chocolate-flavored candies, but he mistook it for eggs instead of feces. Kokonotsu arrives at the shop about 2 hours later to find Hotaru eating rice and Seiya gone home. Hotaru reveals that she's from Osaka and that she suppresses her Kansai dialect on a regular basis. Hotaru leaves after a discussion about Sakura Daikon and how some Dagashi are region-specific, revealing that she lied about her origins. She then returns to Kokonotsu to inquire if he enjoys boobs. He lies, thinking it's a trick question, but then changes his mind as Hotaru begins to walk away. Hotaru then introduces egg ice cream, but she and Kokonotsu disagree on whether it should be referred to as boob ice cream or bomb ice cream. She then takes a bite out of hers, causing the warm ice cream to splatter all over her. She says that she now understands why it's called a bomb, while Kokonotsu now understands why it's called a boob. T is approached in the middle of the night by Hotaru, who asks for his assistance with something. After consulting with Seiya, Kokonotsu notices that Hotaru hasn't shown up at the shop for a while, and the two decide to pay a visit to the mansion where she's staying. They're surprised to find a bedridden Hotaru, who refuses to eat any of the Dagashi Kokonotsu brought with him as gifts for her, and she reveals that her mouth ulcer has worsened after some questioning. She hoped to improve in time to try the new Baby Star ramen flavor that was about to be released. She also reveals that she decided to follow T's advice and stop eating Dagashi altogether in order to aid her recovery. But this causes withdrawal symptoms, prompting her to attack Kokonotsu in order to claim the Dagashi he brought. After calming her down, Kokonotsu and Seiya discover the medicine she was taking to treat her ulcer was actually Dagashi, and that it was not helping her condition at all, much to their dismay. Kokonotsu, Hotaru, and Seiya spy on Y while he works in the shop after questioning Hotaru about why she thinks Y is qualified to work in her father's company. Y ends up demonstrating his people skills when he covers for a boy buying cola gum for a girl he's trying to impress, despite the fact that the endeavor appears to be futile at first. This improves Kokonotsu's impression of his father slightly, until he almost begins to read through Kokonotsu's unfinished manga. Kokonotsu and Hotaru wait for the next available train at a train station sometime later. While Hotaru tells the stories of both their origins, the two enjoy some miyaku kombu and ramune, the latter of which Kokonotsu inadvertently does not get to drink. The conversation then shifts to both the characters' hopes and future plans. Hotaru then reveals, as she steps onto a train that has just arrived, that she will not force him to take over the shop, but that she will be available if he changes his mind. Kokonotsu misses the train as a result of the revelation. On a beach pier, Hotaru and Seiya discuss the flavor of love a day after the previous episode. T and Kokonotsu try to gain popularity through fortune-telling Dagashi once more. Kokonotsu recalls his previous conversation with Hotaru at the train station when the two groups see each other from afar. He decides to respond to Hotaru. Kokonotsu is concerned that Hotaru's indecisiveness is tying him to the town. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you in the next one.